Imagine waiting 20 years to discover what happened to your child, your student, your friend. 20 birthdays, 20 Christmases, 20 championship seasons without closure. Victory bells fell silent in Blackidge, Virginia on March 17, 1995. What should have been remembered as the night the Wolves basketball team made history instead became the night 6 chairs emptied forever. 5 players, 1 coach, gone. The scoreboard still read 68-65 when the gymnasium lights dimmed. The trophy still gleamed in the display case. But Coach Terrence Novak and his champions, Devin Mercer, Zachary Smith, Marcus Reyes, Liam Sullivan, and Kai Washington, never came home to celebrate. Could an entire basketball team simply vanish? In a town where everyone knows everyone, how do 6 people disappear without witnesses, without evidence, without a trace? Tonight, we examine the case that haunted Blackidge for 2 decades. A case where search parties combed every inch of Virginia woodland, where FBI agents interviewed hundreds of witnesses, where families kept porch lights burning for 20 years, hoping their boys might find their way back. This case challenges everything we believe about missing persons investigations. How could professional search teams, tracking dogs, and helicopter sweeps miss what was hiding in plain sight? What could a lone hiker with a camera reveal that hundreds of trained professionals couldn't find for decades? The answer lay buried under leaves and soil, waiting to be discovered in the most unexpected way. If true crime mysteries fascinate you, especially those with endings that defy explanation, hit subscribe now and join our community of armchair detectives. Your support helps us bring these forgotten stories to light. This is the story of the Blackidge 5, a victory celebration that ended in 20 years of questions. March 17, 1995, Blackidge High School Gymnasium. The final buzzer echoed as the scoreboard froze. Wolves 68, Cougars 65. The underdogs had done the impossible. Westfield High had dominated regional basketball for a decade. Their Cougars boasted 3 future Division I players and a 22-game winning streak. Nobody expected the Blackidge Wolves to advance to the state finals. Nobody except Coach Terry Novak. Novak, 42, had rebuilt the basketball program from nothing over 8 years. A Desert Storm veteran with a tactical mind, he approached basketball like a military campaign. His intensity terrified freshmen, but transformed seniors into warriors. That night, his strategy masterfully dismantled Westfield's defense. Security camera footage shows the 6 exiting the gymnasium's east doors at 10:24 p.m. Several witnesses confirmed seeing them in the parking lot. Coach Novak mentioned driving the boys to Gino's Diner for a celebration meal before taking them home. His blue Chevrolet Astro van pulled out of the lot at 10:32 p.m. A gas station attendant 3 miles south reported seeing the van at approximately 10:45 p.m. This was the last confirmed sighting. When dawn broke, panic spread through 6 households. None of the players had returned home. None had called, and their beds remained empty. By 9 a.m., all 6 families had contacted the police. By noon, Coach Novak's wife had called every hospital within 50 miles. By evening, volunteer search parties were forming in the school parking lot, the last place the Blackidge 5 had been seen alive. The celebration had transformed into a nightmare. The clock was ticking, and with each passing hour, the likelihood of finding them alive diminished. Sheriff Dwayne Holbrook had cheered alongside the players' families just hours before becoming the lead investigator in their disappearance. A 23-year department veteran with 3 missing persons cases on his record, all resolved within days, he never imagined his small department facing a case of this magnitude. 6 people don't just vanish, Holbrook told his deputies as they gathered in the station at dawn. They're somewhere, and we're going to find them. The first 48 hours unfolded with military precision. Deputies established a command post at Blackidge High, while state police blocked major intersections. Search parties divided the town into grids. 3K, 9 units tracked since from the school parking lot to Route 29 before losing the trail. Helicopter sweeps covered a 30-mile radius, focusing on roadsides, water bodies, and ravines where a vehicle might have crashed. Divers checked Lancaster Lake and the Miller Creek Reservoir. Nothing. By day 2, the case had captured national attention. The FBI arrived, led by Special Agent Rebecca Donovan, who specialized in abductions. She immediately expanded the search parameters and ordered cell tower data analysis, still a relatively new investigative tool in 1995. Early theories split into 3 categories: accident, crime, or voluntary disappearance. Accident seemed most likely, a van missing in deep woods or water. Crime theories focused on potential witnesses to illegal activities. The voluntary disappearance theory gained traction when investigators discovered Coach Novak had withdrawn $2,000 from his account the previous week. Each theory had holes, but there was no distress calls from cell phones. No skid marks on nearby roads. No connection to criminal elements. No reason for 6 people with bright futures to disappear. What would you have done differently in these critical first days? Tell us in the comments below. Blackidge transformed overnight from a town defined by Friday night basketball to one defined by absence. The 6 empty chairs at the championship banquet became a symbol that haunted the community for years to come. Store windows that once displayed team photos now held missing person flyers. The water tower scheduled for repainting with Home of the State Champions remained blank. Parents began enforcing strict curfews. No teenager left home without a plan, a destination, an expected return time. 1 year after the disappearance, the school board voted unanimously to rename the gymnasium Novak Court. The ceremony drew over 1,000 attendees. 6 empty chairs sat courtside, each bearing a framed jersey and photograph. The basketball team played that season with black armbands bearing the initials of their missing teammates. The annual memorial service evolved from a somber gathering into a community tradition. Each March 17th, residents placed basketball-shaped candles on the school steps. The attendance never waned, even as years passed and hope faded. The basketball program struggled to recover. For 3 seasons, they couldn't fill a complete roster. Players reported feeling the weight of the missing, as if they were playing for ghosts. Not until 2001 did they win another playoff game. Among the 6 families, Elaine Mercer emerged as the public face of their collective grief. Devin's mother channeled her anguish into action, establishing a foundation for missing children and appearing regularly on national television. "I still make his bed every morning," she told reporters on the 5th anniversary. "I still cook enough dinner for him. I still expect to hear his key in the door when basketball practice would have ended. Time hasn't moved forward in our house." In a town once known for its championship banners, 6 missing persons posters became the most recognized images in Blackidge. Have you experienced a case that changed your community forever? Share your story in the comments below. Your experiences help connect these isolated tragedies into a broader understanding of how communities heal, or don't, after the unthinkable happens. As months turned to years without answers, theories about the Blackidge 5 multiplied. Every resident had an opinion. Every anniversary brought new speculation. 4 main theories dominated conversations at diners, police stations, and kitchen tables across Virginia. The accident theory initially commanded the most attention. Investigators believed Novak's van likely veered off one of the treacherous mountain roads surrounding Blackidge. Route 29 had claimed 17 lives in the previous decade alone. Heavy rain had fallen that night, making the winding roads even more dangerous. Sheriff Holbrook maintained this as the most probable explanation, pointing to the complete lack of evidence suggesting foul play. "We're not looking for people who wanted to disappear," he stated in 1997. "We're looking for a van that went off-road in difficult terrain." The foul play theory gained traction when a drug trafficking ring was busted 10 miles from Blackidge in 1996. Some speculated the team witnessed a transaction or drop while driving home. Several anonymous tips suggested Coach Novak had gambling debts, though financial investigations revealed no evidence. The third theory centered on Coach Novak himself. Former military colleagues revealed he had experienced combat trauma during Desert Storm. He occasionally displayed hypervigilance and mood swings typical of PTSD, then still widely misunderstood. Some whispered he might have experienced a psychological break, though his military records showed honorable discharge with no psychiatric concerns. The voluntary disappearance theory emerged when investigators discovered Novak's $2,000 withdrawal. This theory suggested he convinced or coerced the boys to leave with him, perhaps starting new lives elsewhere. This explanation found the least support among law enforcement, but fascinated tabloid media. While police maintained the accident theory, the families vehemently rejected any suggestion of voluntary disappearance. "My son had just received a scholarship to Virginia Tech," Elaine Mercer repeatedly told reporters. "He had every reason to stay and none to leave." Media coverage reflected the evolving narrative. Initial supportive coverage gave way to sensationalistic theories in 1997. By the 10-year mark, documentaries portrayed the case as an unsolvable mystery, focusing on the town's enduring grief rather than potential resolutions. Which theory seems most plausible to you based on the evidence presented so far? The answer might surprise you as our investigation continues. By 1998, the Blackidge 5 investigation had reached a standstill. The once bustling task force dwindled to Sheriff Holbrook and 2 dedicated deputies. The FBI classified it as a cold case, removing Agent Donovan from active assignment while keeping the file open. The case files grew to 17 boxes. Over 400 tips had been investigated. Every lead had been followed to its conclusion. Every search area had been combed multiple times. The town reluctantly accepted that answers might never come. Yet 3 times each year, interest would spike. March 17th, the anniversary, graduation day, and the start of basketball season. News outlets would run retrospectives. Anonymous tips would flood the sheriff's office. Each momentary renewal of attention would fade within days. Sheriff Holbrook never stopped searching. Even as retirement approached, he spent weekends revisiting evidence and interviewing witnesses again. He kept a map in his home office with every search zone marked, adding new areas whenever resources allowed. The case became his personal mission, the unanswered question that would define his career. "I promised those families answers," he told a documentary crew in 2004. "That promise doesn't expire because the trail went cold." Elaine Mercer channeled her grief into advocacy, appearing at missing persons conferences nationwide. Her organization helped locate 17 missing children between 1997 and 2005. She maintained Devin's room exactly as he left it, basketball trophies gathering dust, but never removed. The 10-year memorial service in 2005 drew over 2,000 attendees from across Virginia. 6 empty chairs sat center court, each bearing framed photographs that showed faces forever frozen in youth. The basketball team performed a silent warm-up drill, leaving the 6th position empty in formation. Governor Thomas attended, announcing a $50,000 reward renewal and commissioning a permanent memorial in the town square. Yet despite the renewed attention, the case remained as impenetrable as ever. October 12, 2015 began as an ordinary Monday for Vanessa Thornton. The 34-year-old wildlife photographer had ventured into the remote northeastern section of George Washington National Forest to document fall migration patterns. An award-winning nature photographer with National Geographic credits, Thornton specialized in capturing animals in their undisturbed habitats. She had wandered off the main trail, following fox tracks through dense underbrush when her tripod caught on something metallic. Annoyed at the obstacle, she bent down to free the equipment and noticed an unusual reflection beneath years of accumulated forest debris. "I thought it was just trash at first," Thornton later testified. "People dump appliances in the woods sometimes. But something about the shape made me curious." Brushing away fallen leaves and soil, she uncovered what appeared to be a vehicle roof. Further clearing revealed faded blue paint. A chill ran through her as she realized what she might have found. Using her satellite phone, the area had no cellular coverage. Thornton contacted authorities. Deputy Marcus Lang arrived first, hiking the 1.5 miles from the nearest accessible road. When he confirmed it was indeed a buried van, he immediately contacted Sheriff Holbrook. The retiring sheriff, just 3 weeks from his farewell ceremony, arrived within the hour. He later described the moment as 20 years of prayers answered in the worst possible way. Recovery presented immense challenges. The van rested in a steep ravine, 30 feet below an abandoned logging road that had been closed since 1997. 2 decades of erosion had partially buried the vehicle. Tree roots had grown through windows. The forest had reclaimed the scene so thoroughly that aerial surveys had missed it completely. It took specialized equipment and 3 days to extract the van without disturbing potential evidence. News crews gathered at the forest perimeter, but authorities maintained strict control over information. Rumors spread through Blackidge as residents recognized vehicles from the medical examiner's office joining the procession. Sheriff Holbrook personally called each of the 6 families. "We may have found them," was all he could say. "Please prepare yourselves." When the recovery team finally opened the van doors on October 15th, what they discovered inside would answer the central question that had haunted Blackidge for 20 years. But the answers would prove more complex and heartbreaking than anyone had imagined. The medical examiner confirmed what everyone feared. The remains of all 6 missing persons were inside the van. Dental records provided positive identification within days. After 20 years of searching, the Blackidge 5 had been found. But science tells stories that silence cannot. The forensic investigation revealed a narrative both tragic and preventable. Impact analysis showed the van had plunged off the logging road at approximately 60 miles per hour, far too fast for the treacherous curves. No skid marks indicated the driver never attempted a brake. The passenger side sustained the heaviest damage, suggesting the vehicle rolled at least once before coming to rest upside down in the 6th ravine. Toxicology tests on the preserved tissue samples revealed the most crucial piece of the puzzle. Coach Novak's blood alcohol content was 0.16, twice the legal limit. Additional blood work showed traces of prescription anxiety medication that should never have been mixed with alcohol. The investigation uncovered that Novak had been quietly struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. Military records revealed he had witnessed 3 comrades die during Desert Storm. VA medical files showed he had sought help twice but discontinued treatment, concerned that mental health stigma might affect his coaching career. Phone records discovered during the reinvestigation showed multiple calls between Novak and the VA crisis line in the weeks before the championship game. His wife confirmed he had experienced increasing flashbacks and sleep disturbances, but had insisted on coaching through the playoffs. The most haunting evidence came from Zachary Okafor's cell phone, found intact in a waterproof sports bag. The primitive 1995 device still held the last text messages drafted but never sent due to lack of service in the remote area. Coach driving crazy. Says he knows shortcut. Think he's been drinking. No seatbelts in back of van. Tell Dad to call us if you get this. The logging road had been searched in 1995, but only the accessible portions. The section where the van went off had been deemed too dangerous for ground teams, and aerial searches missed the crash site due to the dense tree canopy. When the road was officially closed in 1997, it was removed from future search parameters, a critical oversight that left the van undiscovered for 2 decades. Year by year, nature concealed the evidence more thoroughly. Seasonal flooding brought soil that partially buried the vehicle. Vegetation grew around and through the wreckage. The blue van gradually became indistinguishable from the forest floor. If you're finding this case as heartbreaking as I do, please share this video to honor their memory. Their story deserves to be told. On November 5, 2015, Blackidge came to a standstill. Businesses closed. Schools canceled classes. The entire town gathered at Willow Creek Cemetery for a service 20 years overdue. 6 caskets, arranged in the same formation as their starting lineup, rested before 6 families who had waited 2 decades for this moment. The high school choir performed Amazing Grace as thousands of attendees held basketball-shaped candles. Current and former Wolves players form an honor guard, each wearing jerseys with the names of the Blackidge 5. Today we don't just bury our lost sons, Reverend Mitchell told the crowd. We buried 2 decades of questions, of theories, of wondering. We laid to rest not just these young men and their coach, but also the weight of not knowing that has pressed upon this town for far too long. For Elaine Mercer, the discovery brought complex emotions. The medical examiner had recovered personal effects from the van, including Zachary's phone with its unsent messages. Sheriff Holbrook personally delivered these items to each family. Finding out Devin died that night, it broke my heart all over again, Elaine later shared. But learning he didn't suffer, that it was quick, and that he was with his friends, that gave me something I needed for 20 years. The Town Square Memorial, dedicated in spring 2016, features 6 bronze figures frozen in a moment of basketball triumph. Water flows beneath them, symbolizing the passage of time. The base contains soil from the ravine where they were found, connecting their final resting place with their permanent memorial. In an extraordinary turn of events, the 2016 Blackidge Wolves won the state championship, exactly what the 1995 team had been poised to achieve. Coach Ricardo Martinez, who had been a freshman during the 1995 season, led the team wearing Coach Novak's old whistle. The county converted the abandoned logging road into Blackidge Memorial Nature Preserve. A small marker stands at the overlook nearest the discovery site, bearing not just the names of the 6 lost, but also information about driving safety and mental health resources, ensuring their story might prevent future tragedies. The Blackidge 5 case demonstrates why closure matters, even when answers bring pain. For 20 years, families existed in limbo, unable to fully grieve, yet unable to move forward with hope. The discovery, while confirming their worst fears, finally allowed healing to begin. This case also reveals how easily critical details can be missed. Coach Novak's PTSD symptoms were recognized by those closest to him, yet the stigma surrounding mental health prevented proper intervention. His struggle reminds us that invisible wounds demand the same attention as physical ones, particularly for veterans returning to civilian life. The investigation exposes troubling gaps in search protocols. The logging road, removed from search parameters after closure, represents how assumptions and administrative decisions can derail even the most thorough investigations. Today, search operations incorporate lessons from this case, including regular review of previously excluded areas and better coordination between agencies. Perhaps most importantly, the Blackidge 5-story cautions against the deadly combination of alcohol, mental health issues, and responsibility for others. Coach Novak's decision to drive that night, impaired by both alcohol and untreated PTSD, resulted in 6 lives cut short and a community forever changed. If this story moved you, please subscribe to our channel. Next week, we examine another long cold case finally solved through unexpected means. The 1982 Lakeside graduation night disappearances. As we close, Elaine Mercer's words at the 2015 memorial service perhaps best capture what closure meant to Blackidge. For 20 years, we've been asking, where are they? Now we know where they are. They're home. Finally, they're home.